Hey, welcome back to Papa's Custom Cars. We had hoped to be on the Nova today, but a lot of what I have to do is clean up the firewall, and part of that involves replacing or removing the heater core and all that kind of fun stuff, and I've got to do some welding. And I took out my welding plug-in because that's how I used to plug in the air compressor. So I have to go back to the electrical again, permanently mount the box for the heater. And then I'm also going to tag off of that same box and have the box for the welder hookup. So that's what we're going to be tackling today. So hang tight and let's do some more wiring, shall we? So welcome back, everybody. The test we ran over the weekend, this little heater puts out about 18,000 BTU. So in addition to the normal heat that's here, it warms it up. You can take it to about 75 degrees in about 45 minutes. So what we're going to go ahead and do now is we're going to remove the temporary line that we've got on our hookup, and we are going to run down and around the bottom, and then put an outlet over here to the other side of the wall. And we're also going to put in a secondary outlet for our welder, because when we removed the air compressor plug-in, we also removed our welder plug-in. It wasn't in a very good place over here on the wall, far away from the garage. So we're going to move a little more towards the center of the garage. Haven't decided yet if it's going to be right here in this area or farther down on the other end. Probably right in this area. It'll be the easiest. Running flex conduit, and I do have 2 boxes to put at the other end, and that'll go ahead and hold on a second. That'll go ahead and let me have enough room for both outlets, and I'll be able to plug in the area that I work in over here. So that's what I'm working on now. And yeah, like I said, the welder plug is the typical dryer cord or the standard type. We're just going to go ahead and use it the way we were using it. We don't run that much power when we're running the MIGs or the TIGs. So that's what we're working on. So let's get to it. Okay, so I've decided I'm going to mount my box right in this area here. I'm going to just bring the flexible conduit around the corner here and connect right into it. It'd be good to find if I can find a stud here in this wall, but not counting on it. This is the water line that runs over to the fridge's ice maker here in the garage. You got to have ice in the garage, so let's see if we can spot. So here's right there. Yep, it is right there. So we'll mount the first box, or the second box right there, and then that'll give us, and I'll put some wall anchors in for the other side. We'll bring it up about 1 foot off the ground. That's just to make sure that, let's see here. So we're located right in here. So line up there. Screw through here, screw through here, and that'll get us started. And then I'm gonna go grab some screws, put them in there temporarily so that we can put some anchors in on the other side. So give me a second, I'll be right back. So because the welder is going to see the most in and out motion, we'll put the welder on the stud and then the heater on the other one. That way we've got, we don't have to worry about it coming off. So first things first, we'll grab our bit, and I'm just going to put 1 screw in for now just to hold it in place. And I am using some pretty stout screws, so. Go get those anchors and a level. Now the only thing I have left to do is I do need to knock that out of there. So this will drill the holes for the anchors. I'm totally prepared today. Constantly having to go back and forth and get tools. Okay, those are in, so that's all ready to go. You get that knockout out of there. Now, we've got our 4 screws here. We put all that. We don't need that anymore. We can move this out of the way along with our drill bits and our level. Okay, very solid and ready for this to come in here, but we have to reroute it, put it around the back of the wall so that it's ready to go. So we'll take a break from here, and I'll come back once I've got the wiring all cut up and in place. I'll bring you back and we'll get everything wired in and everything will be done, and that'll be our project for today. Just to let everybody know, Christmas is coming next weekend, so odds are I probably won't have a video next weekend. As those of you who follow me and have for a while know, my grandkids all come to see me next week, so I'll be visiting with them and my daughter. So that's what I'm going to be doing next week, but we'll get this finished up, and then I'm going to try to do I need to do some work next week, not next week, but the week after. I'm working half days all week, so I'll be able to do a little bit of work on the Nova, and I'll bring you in for that. But I'll bring you back just as soon as I've got these 2 wired up and show you how that ends up. But yeah, what we're going to do is we're going to take this flexible cable, run it around the back of the air compressor along the ground, and then bring it up and tag it right into here, and then we'll have our heater plug here and our welder plug here, because once again, it's a circuit that I'm not using everything at the same time. I was thinking about it, and running the heater, I can run the heater, bring the room up to temp pretty quickly. It's an 18,000 BTU, so that'll definitely get things going. But this is where we're going to be putting everything. I'll bring you back and show it to you when we're all done. But real quick video this week. One of the things I haven't been showing every time that I do this is electricity. It's electricity. Make sure that it's turned off. I've got my breaker shut off like I do every time I'm doing something. If I'm working on the whole panel, I'm shutting down this whole sub panel inside the house. So right now I've got my circuit turned off for the air compressor and the heater. I do check the circuit to make sure that it is not live. Let me set up my... I can't see here. Gotta be able to see. There she goes. But I want to make sure that my circuit is not live. So I've got my wire nut taken off there. Don't really need to. I can stick this probe in there without doing that, but just to make sure, got our hot, and we go to our ground. Oops, can't see. Need to put it up higher, so let me clip it to this so I can see it. But I'll go there and go to here. I have no voltage. Go to the 2 hots. No voltage. So always make sure. But this pretty cheap. I got it at an auction. I think I paid $10 for it. It's a really nice one. I do understand why the electricians now have this big old clip on the end of it, because it does make life nice. But definitely, not only that, but you can hook it onto a hot wire and know if it's hot. So definitely something you might want to invest in if you're going to do anything electrical. And like I say, if you don't know what you're doing here, don't mess with it. You can get hurt really bad. I have had a situation where I've had an extension cord arc on me, and it was a 50 amp circuit that ran to an RV. I was unplugging the 2. I don't know what was in there, if water had gotten in there or condensation, but it threw a spark. I didn't get electrocuted, thank goodness. But being cautious, I did feel a little bit of a jolt. So being cautious, we jumped in the car. This was years ago. Went over to the hospital, made sure everything was okay. Everything was. And now from that point on, I cannot test a live wire, because when my wife hears the noise it makes, because there are some outlets that I got into. There was this one outlet in this house. It must have had 20 wires running to it. And it ran, I think, all the outlets or something in the base and the downstairs. And I had to isolate every single outlet to find this one bad one. And so I had to run hot electricity and test each wire with my tester, only to find out that most of them were shorting out, and it was just a big mess. Whoever wired it, it was just like a big round box, and it had all the wires connected into it. Like I said, there had to be 10 circuits in that one box alone. It was crowded. You couldn't get in there to test anything. So the only way you could test anything was run it hot and then isolate each individual circuit. And so every time she heard a pop from the circuit, I got a scolding, let's put it that way. But yeah, it's a really good thing to, if you're going to mess with something like that, to know what you're doing and to be careful. They say, oh yeah, well, you will be the ground. I guarantee it. I have touched 220 hot. It didn't hurt that bad because I only cut one side of it, so I only got 120. But again, you've got to be careful. With this, I had to go through. They had everything labeled wrong. They had the AC unit up here at the top marked, and then the other breaker was down here at the bottom. Turned out to be the opposite. So when I shut off one, I was actually shutting off the other one. Good thing I tested it, because it was hot and it was live and it was 220 and it was 50 amps. So you definitely don't want to mess with it. You want to be real careful with this kind of stuff. So I just wanted to jump in real quick and say that before I start pulling this thing apart, that I have tested it and it is not live anymore. But I was just saying, every time I go into the electrical in this house, I run into more issues, and I haven't even gotten to downstairs yet, and that one is scary in itself. It's not anything. I've got all the circuits that are down there that are bad, blocked off, and don't have to worry about anything happening. But when they wired the AC unit for the house, they actually just tapped into the mainline feed, hooked 2 wires to the mainline feed, and didn't run it through the circuits. They just ran it over to the disconnect box, which should be outside, and it's got hot power running to it. So I've got to completely rewire that. So the garage is pretty much done now. I do now have heat, which is nice. All I have to do is plug her in, and I have my 18,000 BTU heater, and it warms this place up fast. Which is really nice. So we've got it wired the way it needs to be wired. So that's kind of that for the garage, and we've got everything wired up in the garage that we need. And once again, we've got that welding outlet that we will need. it is nice because it was hooked in over there. They had a dryer cord hooked in the 30 amp over there. So this is nice because I can weld in this area over here where all my stuff is. Let me back up a little bit so you can kind of see. But I generally work in this area here with my welder and everything, so having the outlet right there will definitely make it a lot easier to get to, and I won't have to drag the welder way over here to be able to hook into it. I can use it in this area here like I do, and I can still put my toolbox over here where it's kind of out of the way. I do need to move the heater to the other side of the toolbox because that sucker does get warm, so it does need to be on the other side. It's okay because we've got lots of cord to go over there by the doorway. So that's going to be a wrap for this weekend. It's early Sunday. This is Christmas week, so it's going to be a busy week for me at work. And then with the Christmas weekend coming up, it's going to be really busy with the family. So odds are I'm probably not going to do a video next week. I'll probably skip a week. If I do, I'll throw something together, maybe some the back of this and how I changed it from the Nova rear end to the Camaro one. But a couple of notes here. The wiring in this house was done by two different people. One was a professional electrician. I can tell because some of the circuits were done the right way. Their terminations were done right. They were mounted inside the box. All the precautions were taken. And then there are also circuits in this house that just scare me to death. Prime example being the one for the air conditioning unit, where they just tapped into the main. And yeah, they've got the quick disconnect for the AC unit, but all that's inside next to the fuse box. So they went hot right off of the two mains that feed the house, right into the disconnect out to the air conditioner. So technically the only real safety on that circuit is that disconnect. There's no breaker, no nothing. If it blows those old school fuses on your quick disconnects. And any electrician will tell you that's insane the way they did that. When we went down and we were looking at the EV system and them giving me the quotes and stuff, and they pulled that panel off. I've never had that panel off. And I'm looking at that going, oh my gosh, this is horrible. There is a lot of electricity down there that's coming up here. This panel will go from being a 50 amp panel to a 60 amp panel. I might even take it a little higher. The wiring in this in the sub panel that runs down there is good for 100 amps, but I'm not going to bring 100 amps up here. If I do, I'll pull it off of the main and come around the house, because when they built this addition, they brought gas around, but they didn't bring electric around, which I thought was kind of weird. But there's room for a 100 amp or 150 amp circuit actually to come into the garage if I ever decide later on I want to do that. If I add a hoist and a bunch of other things, then yeah, I'll probably do that, and I'll just bring it right around from the main and then rewire the whole entire box so the circuit it's got its own primary circuit. But that takes me away from my solar power and everything else. So in doing all of that, I may end up creating more of an issue. I won't be able to work in the garage if the power's out. I won't be able to draw off of the solar. Sure, it'll backfeed on the one circuit to the other, but once again, you get into you're opening a whole can of worms, and that's something I would bring a licensed electrician in and say, okay, here's what I want to do, and let them do it. I can run the circuits in the house and in the garage. That's not an issue. It's relatively easy to do. Wiring, you just have to pay attention to what you're doing. You have to be safe. That's the main thing is, if you go to sleep at night and you're worried that your garage is going to burn down, you got a problem. Had I known what I knew about this place to begin with, I would have probably pulled that panel down and fixed everything. But what's happened is, when I was in there last time, I saw this particular circuit that I'm running this heater from, and the way it was wired, and that's why I bypassed everything until I could get in here and get detailed, good, solid wiring in for this circuit, because what they had before was kind of a joke. And when I tapped off of the main, I went to it. I gave it its own circuit. I didn't run it through the old circuit that was there. All I did when I came in was put a dryer plug on my air compressor so I could plug into the wall, and then I would unplug it to use the welder. And I'm kind of glad that I didn't go any further than that before seeing what I saw. And when I was doing the EV system, I saw what they'd done on the one circuit, so that had to completely be changed. So as I go through, the garage is all pretty much set now. I do have to run a circuit out to the two sheds. Mainly it just needs 110 and 1, and that's more for lights and mouse repellers and all that kind of fun stuff to keep the mice out of there. And then the other shed needs at least a 20 amp circuit, and that's because it's running the little whirlpool and all that fun stuff, and an AC unit. So it does have to have a dedicated 20 amp circuit. And I do have a circuit in the garage that I can run out to it. It's not that big of a deal. But once again, that's going to involve a lot of wiring. I've got a bury to go over to the shed, and I'll come from the one shed over to the other. So I'll be running two circuits, one over to the other shed and one to the first shed, because, like I said, the first shed is only lights and a couple of outlets more for repellers and that type of thing. Keep the mice out. But anyway, that's kind of a wrap for today and the weekend. I've run into a couple of issues, and once again, this shows you what takes you so long on one of these builds. Is if you're doing it yourself, you need to take care of things beforehand. This last week, the girls went down and they cleared out the basement so that we could put a bed down there and facilities for when my grandchildren come, and they discovered a leak in the wall. There's a sump pump out there. That's my next project, is to figure out. It wasn't a big leak. It didn't do a lot of damage, but I had to cut out a section of carpet that had black mold, and I had to cut out the wood section that had black mold. I didn't have any on the drywall, thank God, but that took precedence over working on the car. Just like, in normal life, if you've got a project you're doing, the more you can get done to it as quick as you can, the better you are. But when you've got home and job and everything else going on, you kind of got to put stuff on the back burner while you take care of the things that are more important. The more important thing in this particular case was putting in the electrical for the EV. And then once I was in there looking at the EV electrical, putting in the electrical correctly, putting in the electrical for the 30 amp or 40 amp circuit for the compressor, the heater, and the welder. That is a 40 amp circuit, and the heater's only a 30 amp heater, and the compressor, I don't even think is 25, to be honest with you. It's some pretty thin wire on there, and probably like, it is thin. It's about the size of Romex you'd use for outlets and stuff. But beside the point, the circuits are all good now. They've all got the proper protection. It's GFI'd outside on both the EV and all of the regular outlets that are out there. That's all GFI. So that's covered. So pretty much the garage is electrically done. I do want to put some drop cords. I'll reroute some outlets, and I'll put a series of outlets across the top so that if I need to plug in the little trickle chargers and that kind of thing, I've got places to do that. So that'll be something I do in the future. But for now, that's kind of what I've been working on the last month, I guess it's been. So I really haven't had the opportunity to get to the Nova, and I've got to get to the Nova. But now that I've got heat in the garage, as you can see, I'm wearing a short sleeve shirt now, and I don't need a jacket. And if I do wear a jacket, it gets hot and I start sweating. The temperature runs about, I set the thermostat so it runs about 70 degrees in here. And anybody that knows, when it's 30, 40 out there and 70 in here, you walk through the door, it's nice. So that's important. Got to be comfortable when you're in your shop. With that, I'm going to go ahead and sign off. Please do me a favor, like, share, subscribe. If you like the content, let me know. If you're interested in specific content, let me know, because I've definitely got multiple projects going on at the same time with this one. But definitely leave me a comment, like, share, subscribe. If you've got any pointers on anything that I've done yet, let me know, and I will see you on the next one.